Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Boom Comic Source collaboration. Time for your DC Spotlight for May 20th, 2026. Almost said May 28th, but yeah, 13 books this week. We were spoiled, I guess. For many weeks in a row, we had only 10 books. This week it jumps up to 13. Next week's also 13. Next week I'm traveling. I'll be in Florida. Really not looking forward to that. Apologies to anybody who lives in Florida, but man, losing a whole day to fly out there and a whole day to fly back. I know first world problems, but man, I'm so busy right now to lose those 2 days while flying is not something that I'm looking forward to. I guess I can read a lot while I'm there, but
is that work related or is it going to some conventions?
Yeah. If I was going to a convention, then whatever, I'd be like, yeah, great. No, but no, it's because of work. I was supposed to go in December, and I've managed to push it off as long as I could because I really don't want to go, and I can't put it off any longer. So yeah, I just gotta bite the bullet and go. So anyway, hopefully we'll get next week's episode in the can before I leave, and all the other stuff. Spawn Daily still happening, still dropping, and that's really what is taking up so much of my time. The fact I brought Spawn Daily back, and I'm putting out one YouTube episode every day. At least one, because then the other interviews and reviews, whatever. So hope everybody had a chance to check out my Amazing Spider-Man Torment review that I did. Really interesting what body count did to that character. Very interesting. Also continuing my Ghost Machine panel by panel breakdowns of their books. I also had an incredible interview today. I spent the entirety of yesterday, well, not the entirety, but I read the entirety of a book yesterday called Superman Wars. It came out April 28th. It's the most factual and comprehensive history of Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel and their fight to regain the rights to Superman. So it starts even before they started publishing Superman at DC Comics. It's a good, if you want to just learn about the history of DC Comics, how it got started. It's infuriating, but it's comprehensive, as I said, and it's very, very good. I highly recommend it. But anyway, I had the chance to interview the author, who has done a ton of work in fiction, and he's even written some poetry. Guy's written 60 books. He's had #1 bestsellers on New York Times list. But he happens to be a lifelong comic fan. And
what's his name?
His name's William Bernhardt. Cool. And the book is called Superman Wars. And yeah, it's like 417 pages. And I knew a couple of weeks ago that I was going to do this interview, and I kept procrastinating on reading it because, again, I've been so busy. And yesterday I was like, I interview this guy tomorrow. I got to read this book. So I started yesterday like maybe around 4 in the afternoon. And with a break for dinner and a break to take a shower, I finished it at like 2:30 in the morning. It was very, very good. But yeah, infuriating to see what these guys went through. So anyway, that interview will actually drop before this, technically. So if you're listening to this, that interview is already out. It's already out on the Comic Source YouTube channel. I highly recommend you go and check it out. It's really fun. We don't give away like the book or anything, but and again, it's nonfiction, so it's not like we don't know what happened. But even me, a lifelong Superman fan, I knew that they got done dirty, but I did not realize to the extent. And I also didn't realize how many chances there were just for things to go a different way. You know, to borrow a phrase from across the street, what if, right? Like how different the world, because that's what we're talking about. Yes, we're talking about a comic book character, but everybody knows Superman. Everybody around the world knows who Superman is. And the world itself, the history of the world could be a different place if things didn't go the way that it went with Superman. So it's fascinating, and little spoiler for the episode. And I didn't wait till the end to give William a chance to plug this, but there's a Batman Wars. He's working on Batman Wars now, which is different. It's very different. That's the fight between Bob Kane when he was trying to keep Bill Finger and Jerry Robinson from having any credit at all for creating Batman. So a bit of a different situation there, but that's coming for all you crazy Batman fans out there. But anyway, it was fascinating. But what was really cool, maybe the coolest thing, as much as it was great to talk about the book, as much as I enjoyed it or whatever, before we even started recording, like we're just, hey, nice to meet you, whatever. And William says something along the lines of, well, this is really cool for me because I actually listen to your podcast. And I was like, wait a second. Like you went and listened to some episodes like before he's like, no, like he had it on his phone. He's like, no, this is one of the comic book podcasts that I listen to. I was like, this guy's a New York Times best-selling author. He's written 60 books. And he is the comic book guy. And, I asked him at one point if he kept up on, with current books. And he's like, well, I'm not as current as I wish I was, or as current as most of the people listening to this podcast probably. But he stays current. He's read Absolute Superman. He actually likes Absolute Wonder Woman better.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was blown away. I was blown away that he listened. It's so funny because when we do this because we love it, we love talking comics, and you and I love getting together once a week to do this.
Sure.
But it's always fun to be reminded. Like it's the same thing whenever I go to a convention and it's a creator, and like, oh yeah, I listen to this. I know who you are. Like, especially if it's the first time I'm meeting the creator, and they're like, oh yeah, I know who you are. Like the first time I met Lucas Meyer, who we'll talk about. He's got a book out this week. And he was like, oh, I know who you are. Yeah, I listened to your show. I was like, oh my God, that's crazy.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice.
I mean, it's one thing when we have somebody on and we meet them first and they like us and then they start listening, like Jeremy Adams, but when they've come to it completely on their own, that blows me away. So anyway, to get back to this week, this output of 13 books, I thought it was a pretty okay week, maybe slightly above average. But Rocky and I were talking before, difference of opinion there. So, what do you think of the week overall?
Oh, I thought they were just most of them were just average. I was a little bit I was mostly underwhelmed this week. Surprise. That's sarcasm. People who have been listening know that I've really been enjoying the Absolute Universe. And the Absolute titles this week, I'm very happy with. I continue to really enjoy the Absolute Universe, but I think there's some mediocrity here in this list. But there is 13 titles, and maybe just I enjoyed this. In Canada here, it's May Long. Jace tells me you guys have your Memorial Day long weekend in May. We have May Long. We call it May Long in Canada, and it's at the beginning of May. And so I've been enjoying that. I put up a trampoline. It snowed yesterday, and that's how the weather is here in southern Alberta. It snowed yesterday, and it was hot and sunny today, and I put up a trampoline. That's weather in Alberta, people. Unbelievable. But in any event, so I sort of read these 13 comics, so maybe that had something to do with it. I wanted to be outdoors. Perhaps that tainted my reading experience, but it didn't. I still love comics. So, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on a couple of them, particularly one Absolute title. So. Let's get to it.
Yeah. I feel the same, and I do notice when I'm kind of rushing myself to read. I know I don't enjoy things, so I've been trying to give myself enough time, and I did. Like I started reading these like Thursday last week, so I had plenty of time to read them. But yeah, I mean, there is something to the fact that there's 13 more books. Like if we trim off the bottom 3 of each of our respective lists, the quality goes up, what have you. So I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, we'll kick it off with Batman Superman World's Finest, number 51, from writer Mark Waid. Adrian Gutierrez on art, Luis Guerrero on colors, Steve Wands on letters. I really, really enjoyed this. Not that I haven't been enjoying Mark Waid's run on World's Finest for a couple of reasons. First of all, Rocky and I have talked a lot of times about how continuity light it is, how you can just kind of jump in. And, it does seem to be set kind of in the early years of Batman and Robin's team up. And so you don't have to know anything that's going on. For the most part, it did tie in, I think, with DCKO a little bit, maybe, or Absolute Power Out. I can't remember, maybe one or both. So it does tie in once in a while, but this one definitely does not. And what I love is we're going to the world of Warlord. We're going to the world of Skottie. And I also felt like Adrian Gutierrez, sometimes I give his art a little bit of a bad time because he's one of the ones that likes to use the ink splatter. Jorge Corona be another one of those, and I don't really care for that. I never noticed ink splatter. I'm not saying there isn't ink splatter in this issue, but I never noticed it like I usually notice it in his art. It's also very brightly colored, maybe because it is set in Skartaris. So, that was interesting as well, to think of that as possibly the reason that we had much less ink splatter. So I don't know. Maybe it's just fun seeing Warlord and it's fun seeing Skartaris. But I really enjoyed this issue. And then at the end, we have I can't remember what his name is, the villain, the Warlord.
Tyrant Rex?
Tyrant. Yeah, Tyrant. I always want to say Tyrannosaurus, and I know that's not right. And I don't know why. Because he kind of looks like a dinosaur, I guess, is why even back when I was reading Warlord, I would always call him Tyrannosaurus. But yeah, Tyrant. It was fun to see him. I forgot how cool he was as a villain. And, I'm a big fan of Mike Grell from back in the day. In fact, I think a couple months ago, I bought a full run of John Sable because I want to read it and do like review episodes for each issue, put it on the list of all the hundreds of other things I want to review and cover. But anyway, I'm a fan of Mike Grell, loved his Warlord run back in the day, loved his Legion of Superheroes work back in the day. And so there's a little bit of nostalgia. I recognize that. And maybe that's why this sneaks into my top 5 this week. So what are your thoughts on it, Rocky? It wasn't in your top 5, right?
No, it wasn't. It came in at number 8 for me this week. But I enjoyed it. I always liked the refresher course on the origin of Warlord, and and this was even the origin of Tyrant Rex, which I completely forgot. I didn't know that he was also Tyrant Rex was also he was a pilot, just like Travis Morgan was, who basically crash landed in the Skartaris, and Randall Kreitzker is another pilot Navy pilot who crashed and ultimately became Tyrant Rex. So we got, Mark Waid, what he does so well is sort of rewriting past Silver Age stories or past early modern day stories to present day, and does a really good job here. And yeah, I mean, it's just, I think frankly, if you're somebody that just enjoys a DC fan, like, I have to collect World's Finest. Even though I'm very picky, World's Finest is always on my pull list because it's just Mark Waid does a good job here of sort of, these are stories that are going to have relevance to modern day stories, and he's sort of revitalizing DC's past, and that's what I like about World's Finest. I can't say the same. He's doing the same thing with Action Comics as well, which is pretty cool. I feel I know enough about Action. I don't necessarily have to get every issue of Action Comics, but frankly, you can't go wrong with Mark Waid, and certainly not in World's Finest.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, up next, Sirens Love Hurts number 4 from writer Tini Howard. Babs Tarr on art. Miguel Muerto handles the colors. Becca Carey on letters. 4th and final issue. This is Elseworlds. I don't think it ever came close to being in my top 5 ever, and there's no exception this week. It comes in at number 10 for me. But I do want to say that the main cover by Babs Tarr is awesome. I really, really like that main cover. Babs Tarr, I know some people don't care for her style, but I've always been a fan of hers, and I think that this main cover that she gives us for Sirens Love For is like if somebody ever asked me, hey, give me a cover that really epitomizes Babs Tarr's style, I'd show them this cover.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's really good. Yeah.
Anyway, this is in your top 5, Rocky, so take it away.
It has been, and no one is more surprised than me to say that every issue, I'm pretty sure every single issue of Sirens Love Hurts, and this is the final issue, it's book 4, every issue is ended up somewhere in my top 5. I'm pretty sure, if I recall, and I'm surprised because Babs Tarr, I have to say, like, I didn't think she would be up to the task of making these women sexy, and I feel like a fool saying that now, looking at this art. It's impressive as hell. And Tini Howard doesn't have a great track record with me, but I have a lot of fun with the way that she's written this, scripted this story. I think she's got just a great handle. This is obviously out of continuity. She clearly writes Batman in her own way. She writes Oliver Queen in her own way. Dinah Lance, Catwoman, Black Canary, Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy. But man, the way she manages to do a very good job character-wise, crafting all of their relationships, and ultimately they end up defeating this issue. They end up defeating Horoscope, who is basically, this Horoscope is the villain who considers it her ability. She's figures Horoscope wants to do Gotham a favor by destroying all the toxic women in Gotham. And while it sounds it sounds anti-man or what have you, it really isn't. Oliver Queen's treated with a lot of respect, so is Batman. This is not a comic book that's against men in any way. It really exemplifies just love and relationships, even between Catwoman and Batman, the misunderstandings that they have. Batman genuinely loves Catwoman. There's some great scenes there where he thinks that they're going to, Batman, Catwoman's upset that Catwoman thinks that Batman's trying to pull one over her by not telling her that he's really Bruce Wayne, where Batman assumes she knew and that it was just part of their game that they play with each other on rooftops and what have you. And I just like that. And Oliver Queen is very supportive of Dinah Lance. These are very functional relationships, which you're not always accustomed to when you read these characters in the mainstream DC universe, especially Ivy and Harley. Now, Ivy and Harley have the most dysfunctional relationship in this comic, which you'd expect, but even they end up with a happy ending here. And ultimately, Horoscope's defeated, and it culminates in the wedding of Oliver Queen and Dinah Lance, and it's very well put together. The art is fantastic. Dinah looks sexy as hell in her wedding. There's some really great scenes. There's some really great. Babs Tarr she's not only a good artist in her own right, better than I ever appreciated, but I think she's. I don't know if it's, do I credit Hayden Sherman for just making me paying more attention to panel work from artists, or is it just they're all stepping up and bringing their A game to this? But Babs Tarr has done a really great job, just impressing me, and I really enjoyed this series. And I think I don't think I know. I will be getting. I hope they give this a hardcover, not just a trade paperback. I'd really like to collect this in a hardcover, and I'd love to see some additional pages of art by Babs Tarr in that hardcover. Are you listening, DC? So, yeah.
Well, we hope they listen, so they'll turn Firestorm into an absolute title. Yeah. Anyway, moving on, we have Wonder Woman issue number 33, The Wonder War Part 3, from writer Tom King, Daniel Sampere on art, Alejandro Sanchez handling the colors, and Clayton Cowell on letters. Now, this didn't make either of our top three. I have it at our top five, rather. I have it at number 7. And it's not that I'm not enjoying it, especially the Daniel Sampere art. His art's fantastic. There's also a David Nakayama cover in his traditional style of Trinity, which I thought was really cool. And then there's a Chuma Hill cover, which Rocky doesn't have up there, but that's the cover B that has Matriarch on it. And so I am really enjoying this, but what I feel like is that one of the complaints that people often have about Tom King, and I don't always feel this way, but sometimes I do, is that it's just it's paced too slowly. It just feels like it takes forever for anything to happen, and that was a major complaint with his Batman title, and some of that was maybe on him, but some of it wasn't. It was because of needing to line books up for other events and what have you. But for this, we know it's kind of off in its own little corner and doesn't, it did. Yes, it tied in with Absolute Power at one point, but for the most part, it's over on its own now. And because we know, as Rocky's fond of saying, Tom King doesn't play well with others, but self-admittedly, he's not good at co-writing. It's just not one of his strengths. So all that to say, there's no one to really point to in terms of the pacing on this being kind of slow, and I feel like it's kind of slow. So it's been the last issue and this issue where I have felt that strongly, and that has kept me that's kept me from putting it in my top 5, even though the art is gorgeous. Daniel Sampere is just getting better. This might be some of my favorite art he's done on the whole series. Seeing a little bit more mature Wonder Woman, the dynamics, the body language between Steve Trevor and Wonder Woman and Trinity and what have you. So anyway, if I was just judging on the art, it would be in my top 5, but I'm judging it as a whole, and it's at number 7 for me. Anything to add, Rocky?
Yeah, it came in at number 9 for me. It's not just the pacing. I don't find the story exciting. For the life of me, I still don't know why I'm supposed to care. And Matriarch is this powerful person that apparently Wonder Woman failed to protect the entire Justice League. All the heroes have been killed on the planet. Wonder Woman apparently knew that Damian Wayne and John Kent were going to die. They were sacrificial lambs. And we sort of get a hint as to why Wonder Woman let that happen this issue, because she ultimately uses a God-Killer sword to literally open up the earth, to go to the Hades River on the River Styx. And, instead of paying the price to travel the River Styx, they knock out the Death, the guy with the Sith, on the boat, and then they rob his boat, which you're not supposed to be able to do in mythology. Steve Trevor had to follow the rules, but of course Wonder Woman doesn't. Wonder Woman only follows the rules of the gods when it's convenient for her, apparently. And anyways, they end up going to the Fates. Now, what do the Fates do? Wonder Woman, long story short here, the Fates usually know the future. And it looks like Wonder Woman has now wants to change. I think she wants to just change time. She doesn't like the outcome. She's failed. Superman dies in this issue. We thought Superman was already dead, but but he was found to be alive last issue. He actually does die of kryptonite poisoning this issue. And I didn't feel anything because I don't feel any of the deaths here because it's so, we don't really know what's happened, and none of this has seemed to have happened organically. And so Wonder Woman wants the help of the Fates, and the Fates, of course, they're three sisters that are gods, and they're typical gods. They always have their own way of doing things, and Wonder Woman wants to manipulate the Fates, or to use the Fates to basically undo what has been done, because they were twisted or they were manipulated, likely by Matriarch. But Matriarch shows up because Matriarch knows Wonder Woman's there and wants to fight Wonder Woman to prevent her from doing whatever it is she's going to with the Fates, to undo all the stuff that Matriarch has done. And it's just, unfortunately for me, it's not only is it paced bad, but poorly, but I'm just not feeling all these moments, despite the amazing, gorgeous art, as you said, of Daniel Sampere. And it's unfortunate. This cover art was really, shout out to the Daniel Sampere. The cover A is really great, with showing Matriarch's face with Wonder Woman's showing up on the sword there, and you see the Green Lantern ring on the Matriarch. It's very well done. I just wish that the story did the art justice. Daniel Sampere, great art does not a story make, but boy, he does his best. But
yeah, I mean, he's given it his all, but yeah, I mean, I'm a little more interested in the story. I don't think it's a bad story. I think it's more pacing than anything, but I take your point. Sometimes it's, and that's a problem with something that's poorly paced, is that you can lose the story very easily. Anyway, let's move on. Up next, we've got Absolute Flash number 15. This just missed my top 5. Came in at number 6 for me. Written by Jeff Lemire, Nick Robles on art, Adriana Lucas on colors, Tom Napolitano on letters. I did enjoy it quite a bit. Wally continues to have a lot of agency. This one also gives a lot of context into Ray Palmer, the absolute version of Ray Palmer, and Silas Stone, who we would know as Cyborg's father, as well as Barry Allen. So a lot of context there with these guys, and the Rogue show back up as well. So I appreciated it, and I'm really curious to see. I mean, would you count this as the first appearance of Ray Palmer, or you think we're actually going to get like a physical Ray Palmer? Because here he kind of shows up in a recording. Not really. So
he's been mentioned before. He has been mentioned before, I believe, but I don't think he's shown up before.
And here he just shows up in a series of like flashbacks, screen grabs.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how, because it's always weird how people, like, eventually fandom decides what the true first appearance is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't always make sense. But anyway, this was in your top 5, so give us your thoughts.
It was. This is one of the what I like about this issue of Absolute Flash, and it's Absolute Flash issue 15, is that we get a lot more story than we normally do in Jeff Lemire. Jeff Lemire is usually slower paced. We always get great character work by Jeff Lemire, but sometimes in terms of story substance, we got to wait 2 or 3 issues while in between all that great character work, it takes a while to get us a lot of substance. We get a lot of substance this issue. We know that Ray Palmer, Barry Allen, and Silas Stone, who in the mainstream universe, Silas Stone is Cyborg's father, but in the Absolute universe, Silas Stone, Ray Palmer, and Barry Allen formed Star Labs. And Star Labs then eventually, and they were looking into sort of like the God particle, and they were looking into various things. And ultimately, Barry Allen ended up leaving, and he went on his own. Then he got recruited by Thawne, Thawne, and Ray Palmer and Silas Stone ended up acquiring Star Labs, and there was a bunch of, they were sued, and Ray Palmer ultimately ended up doing his own thing, and Ray Palmer ended up disappearing. And what happened to Ray Palmer? So you assume maybe Ray Palmer was dead, but I'm guessing he's been atomized and he's the atom, but we'll know that in the future. But so we discover all this because Wally West, with the help of Linda finds out that, hey, we this Mirror Master, mentioned Star Labs, and so Linda try to find out the last location of where Star Labs was, and so Wally West goes there, and there's some great scenes with Linda. This is after Wally has a vision of the future. He talks to his future self, a future version of himself that warns him not to look for his father. Of course, he's going to not listen to his older self, because and he's going to look for his father because, well, that's a danger. So he nonetheless looks for his he listens to Linda, and Linda wants to go with him, but he doesn't want to take Linda with him. And so he ends up going to this Star Labs, which is abandoned, and he sees this message of Ray Palmer, and Ray Palmer basically tells him the history, and he discovers that Ray Palmer worked with Barry Allen, worked with Silas Stone, they had Star Labs. Anyways, there's this book that Ray Palmer has, and within this book, there's a lot of secrets that Ray Palmer wrote down, and so a lot of the stuff moving forward, a lot of revelations moving forward, I'm thinking are going to be within this book that was in Ray Palmer's lab, and there's not a lot of information on it. It talks about, but it's referring to like the still point, that still point, which is where Wally ended up, where Jay Garrick ended up and became corrupted, and where Barry Allen is supposedly trapped, and where he thinks his father is, and how do you get there, and exactly how does this all work? There's also further reference to this dark particle that controls everything that we last heard about in the Absolute Justice League book, or the Absolute Justice, where the Joker talked about this particle, this Omega particle that makes up the Absolute Universe. That's one of the discoveries that I think Ray Palmer was alluding to, and when he talked about what him and Barry Allen and Silas Stone were looking at, and how all this is sort of tied together. So this is, if you're reading you don't need to read any of the Absolute titles. It's 100% true. You can, if you just like Absolute Flash, and that's the only Absolute title you like, you can read it and still understand and get the gist of it. If you're reading all the Absolute titles, I think you get more out of it because you see that there's enough of the little pieces there that slide together, and there's consistency there, and there's a continuity there if you like it. And that's what I love about this. And I just thought this was done really well. And by the way, it also, in the vision that Wally had of the future, Ralph Digby is killed. And of course, we know that in the mainstream universe, he becomes Elongated Man. So perhaps somewhere in the near future, in the next 4 or 5 issues, who knows? Are we going to get Absolute Ray Palmer making an appearance? Are we going to Absolute Elongated Man making an appearance? Who knows? But in any event, I thought there was a lot of bang for your buck in this issue, a lot of information. And it was, for me, in terms of both art and substance, it was a lot more bang for my buck than I'm accustomed to in reading Absolute Flash. And one of the better issues that Jeff Lemire's written, in my opinion.
Yeah, I always took that dark particle to just be, like you said, an Omega. It's just a foundational building block of the matter in the Absolute Universe, because we know everything in the Absolute Universe is infused with Darkseid's Omega energy. Whether or not it turns out to be something more than that remains to be seen. because it has been mentioned a couple times. So yeah, going to be interesting to see how that plays out. The other thing is, am I the only one that's still bothered by the fact that we're told there were 7 forces? You remember this in Scott Snyder's Justice League, right? Like the Speed Force was one, but it never was fully explained, and it became a bit of a mess. But one of them was the Still Force, and so now when we talk about this, still place, it calls to mind that, which then it doesn't necessarily mean the same it's the same force, because we've been told the Speed Force is not the same, right? That the Speed Force in the main universe and the Speed Force but does that mean they're all different? Could this still place be a way to travel from the Absolute Universe to the main universe? I don't know. It very well may be that none of this has been decided, because no writer has bothered to tell a story yet where they need to decide whatever, which is perfectly fine. I want them to take their time. If anybody wants them to take their time, it's me. But again, just anytime I hear the term Still Force, I think back to how excited I was to find out about all those 7 forces. It was almost like I kind of likened it to when we found out there was a bunch of different emotional spectrums, and then how like the richness that came from that. And when I heard, there's 7 forces, and look at how rich the Speed Force and how much stories come from the potential of that, and I sort of thought, now we're going to get 6 others, and that'll be, and man, did that.
I know.
Did they really,
we never did. We never did get all of them. I think I remember one in particular. I'm still not sure what. I think it was the Black Apple. Was the Black Apple was one of the 7 forces or something? And I never did understand what the Black Apple did. Anyways,
they completely, like I said, they just shit the bed on that completely. It was. We could go back and look at it. It's probably not worth the effort or time. So
Anyway, let's move on. Up next, I don't really have a lot to say about this book. It's Batwoman, rather, number 3, from Greg Rucka on art. We have, Greg Rucka writing, Dani on art, with Matt Hollinsworth on colors, and Hassan Otsman Elhau on letters. I'm going to sound like a broken record. Dani's art, she uses a lot of negative space. Her art needs to not be colored. When I think coloring literally ruins her art. And so it's kind of messy, and it pulled me out of the story at various times. The other part of this is that I think Greg Rucka is telling a sort of a non-linear story. There's a lot of mystery involved, so it's not completely clear what's going on in terms of the narrative. When you have a narrative it's not completely clear what's going on, and you have art where you struggle to see what's going on, that does not for a good comic make. So yeah, for that reason, this came in. Did I put it last? Yes, I did. Came in at number 13 for me. So enough said. What'd you think?
I gotta say, this came in at number. Boy, this was a tough one for me. This one came in at number. I actually put it at number 13 as well. But bear in mind, my even though it came in last, it's only because I thought it was mediocre. Because I think my bottom 7 are all mediocre. Bottom 8 are all mediocre. I don't find the storytelling difficult to follow. But I'm beginning to get a little frustrated with the art at times. I do note that cover A was, I think, I realized Renee Montoya shows up this issue, and it should have had more impact, and it didn't. Renee Montoya and Batwoman are former lovers. They're not only if they fought together as heroes, but they're former lovers as well. Should have had a little bit more impact. Even the ending here, it has Batwoman has killed, Batwoman murdered and executed at the end of the second issue, or end of the first issue, at the end of the first issue, she ended up executing the people that were chasing her, or one person and 2 are injured. And here she ends up stabbing Renee Montoya, which is really out of character for her. So you got to wonder, is Kate Kane, is she already possessed by the anti-life? Why is she doing this? Because this is Darkseid's minions want to recruit her to basically be a minion of Darkseid, I think, and they're perhaps they're responsible for what happened to her sister. She seems to be institutionalized and under psychological evaluation by a doctor. Her own father knows she's institutionalized, and but yet she escaped as Batwoman. And so there's a lot going on here. Meanwhile, there's this rich family that seem to want to use her for nefarious Darkseid-like purposes. So there's definitely a story here, but it doesn't feel like it's congealing. Like it doesn't feel like it's coming together very well. And maybe it is the art. But I do think that there's a story here. But I got to tell you, this there's so much competition that with DC right now. This is even for me, as much I'm a Batwoman fan. I mean, I'm a sure thing when it comes to Batwoman. I'm a Batwoman fan, and I'm reading this, and the second issue I gave it a lot of slack, but even now I'm saying, hey, this is kind of meh. Like this has got to pick up. This has got to pick up real quick here, because it's just it's missing something. It's missing more of a hook. It needs more drama. It needs something.
Yeah, I want to be clear too. When I say it's got art that's hard to follow, it's got a story that's hard to follow. I'm following the story. Like I understand what's happening. It's just that what's happening is derivative and not very interesting. And there's purposeful mystery that Rucka's building in with, okay, what's going on with Kate Kane? Why is she acting like this? Why is she in this like mental facility, whatever? There's questions that haven't been answered. And it's fine to do that. But again, you're introducing some ambiguity, purposely introducing ambiguity into the storyline, which can be a little frustrating for people at times, especially if you drag it out too long. And then you have art where it's hard to tell. So you purposely don't know what's going on in the story. There's ambiguity there, and that's fine. But then you have art where you don't exactly know what's going on either, and it's not purposeful. That's not fine. And the combination of the two just doesn't work. It's a recipe for disaster. So, all right. Anyway, let's move on. Up next, we have Catwoman number 87, Schrodinger's Cats from Torunn Grumbeck. David Gianfelice handles the art. Patricio Del Pesce on color. Steve Wands on letters. I put this at number 9 for me. It is moving forward. It's clear that Black Mask has a real hate on for Selina, and he's pulling out all the stops to try to take her down. We have an imposter Selina walking around the city, like a woman that looks so much like Selina. It fooled Holly Robinson when Holly saw her the first time. I think that Torunn Grumbeck kind of played this false face card already earlier in the run, so it seems like she's already repeating herself. And this does feel like it's slowing down. I was sort of expecting a faster paced book when it got back to Gotham. Maybe that's just on me and my expectations. But yeah, those are some of the reasons that it's down at number 9 for me. And I want to go back to Batwoman real fast. I wanted to mention that there's a couple of great covers. There's a Stefan Sejic cover and a Yannick Paquette cover that are both open to order that are fantastic. And then this Catwoman book, which, Catwoman doesn't always have the best variant covers, considering it's Catwoman and she should be super sexy. But the B cover is always Frank Cho, and it's always a ballpoint sketch, and they're always fantastic. So I wanted to shout out his ballpoint cover on this particular issue. Anyway, what do you think of Catwoman 87?
I actually thought this was... I like the name of this issue, Schrodinger's Cat. the reference to that whole paradoxical Schrodinger test and blah, blah, blah. In any event, I feel the story's been told before, but perhaps to Torunn Grumbeck's credit, the idea is to have almost like trying to tear down Selina's life by having somebody impersonate Selina, ruin her life, and all because of what Black Mask is doing in conjunction with the godmother that wants revenge for losing her entire family for what Catwoman did in Torunn's first story arc, which I thought which I had a hard time following and was, I thought, poorly paced. But this is a lot more straightforward. I do find this storytelling better. I like the fact that Holly is even fooled. And then there's Maggie. Her sister Maggie is being terrorized by Black Mask. And just to remind people, Maggie's husband was killed by Black Mask. Maggie was very much terrorized by Black Mask. And Holly, of course, used to be Catwoman. At a minimum, was even Catwoman's sidekick for a time. And so the fact that clearly they're really tearing into Selina's life here. but I don't know if it's the art, which I've always had a problem with. I don't think the art's just not working for me. I just feel like the level, what's happening in Selina's life, she's working for the mob. She's literally working for the mob. She doesn't have a choice pretty much. She has to work for the mob. Meanwhile, so she's working for one mobster. Meanwhile, she's got another one, Black Mask, working with another mobster who just came from Europe, this godmother, who wants to destroy her life. And so this has the makings of a hell of a good story, because Selina can utilize all these. She can play Black Mask against godmother, against Falcone. So you got three very interesting mobsters here that are all powerful in their own right, and Selina's the pawn of all of them for different reasons. You know, two of them want revenge, and one of them just wants to use Selina, and one might be her father. So if you look at it that way, this is just ripe for some very interesting storytelling. And you got Maggie, throw in Maggie, Selina's sister, who's traumatized, and then you throw in Holly, who's, I mean, so there's a lot going on here. And so I'm invested in this story. I don't really know where it's going. I feel like it's been told before, but yet it is different. So I got mixed feelings about it, and I'll just leave it at that. But I do, if people wanted a different take on maybe a slightly different twist on a familiar Catwoman story, they might want to give this check this out.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think if you're a Catwoman fan, you've probably been enjoying, well, let me put it this way. If you're a Catwoman fan that loves the crime noir aspect of her, you're probably really enjoying this run. If you lean more into a little bit of the kind of mainstream DC universe version of her, you know, like the version that we got in Tom King's run, you know, where she's out there in her costume interacting with the other heroes and villains of the mainstream DCU, you're probably not liking it as much. So anyway, I give her all the credit in the world for the ambition of the story she's trying to tell. All right, up next, this one surprised me a little bit in terms of me not having it in my top 5, but it in being in Rocky's top 5. Deathstroke the Terminator, Part 3, Death Comes in Threes, from writer Tony Fleecs. Carmine di Giandomenico on art, Yvonne Placencia on colors, Wes Abbott on letters. I put this a little lower than I did the first couple of issues, just because kind of the same reason I'm putting a lot of the books a little lower, just pacing issues. It was great to see Deadshot, and it was great to see Deathblow, don't get me wrong. And the action in this issue is awesome. But we're 3 issues in now, and I'm expecting the story to move along a little bit, and instead it feels like it's slowing down, which is an interesting juxtaposition. When you have lots of action, so yes, things are happening, but the forward momentum of the plot is not moving forward. It's kind of like running in place. So anyway, for that reason, I put it at number 8 for me. But I feel like I'm pretty sure I had the first 2 issues ranked higher than you, Rocky.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
So it's really interesting that you've got this one ranked higher than me. But there is Dan Panosian is doing the variant covers for this book. And he has another great one. And then there's also, I want to give proper credit here. There's also a Brad Walker. I should have known. There's also a Brad Walker variant that's awesome. That's in the middle there. And then even the one that Rocky has behind me, which is Howard Porter variant, is great as well. So yeah, kind of hard to go wrong with any of the particular variant covers on this particular issue. So
yeah, and it's nice to see Howard Porter do a cover, because I understand that he had some. I thought he had some health issues, or he has a difficult time drawing. Or did I hear wrong? I thought.
I mean, Howard Porter, after he finished his Justice League run in the late 90s, he had a health. He had to learn to draw again. Yeah. That's why his style looks so different now than before. But I haven't heard of any recent health issues. But okay, doesn't mean there haven't been. So
yeah.
Anyway, this was in your top 5, so take it away.
Yes, it was. Let me see here. Yeah, the reason why I put it in here is that, well, first of all, I thought it was generally a mediocre week, and it wouldn't have made my top 5 in most other weeks. But I actually enjoyed. here's the thing. With Deadshot, Deathblow taking on Deathstroke, I thought this was really going to get violent. It didn't get near as violent as I thought. And Deathstroke and Deathblow were both, they were pulling their punches. Which I found very surprising. I was shocked at first. What the hell is Deadshot pulling his punches? They're not even trying to kill Deathstroke. Like, what's going on? Deathstroke's trying to kill them. He wants to find out who killed Evergreen, who killed Wintergreen, who killed. I want to know who did this. And Deadshot's trying to tell Slade that, hey, you're the one that killed Wintergreen. And of course, we never saw that. We basically experienced the first two issues through what is essentially Slade Wilson's eyes. So in our view, we saw Wintergreen die too, but we never saw it. We're not led to believe that Slade himself killed Wintergreen, but Deadshot's convinced of that. Deathblow's convinced of that, and apparently the world at large thinks that that Slade, Deathstroke the Terminator, is responsible for all this chaos. Now, that's definitely a surprise. So what's going on here? Who's really behind the scenes? We really don't know. So in that respect, I agree with you. We're 3 issues in. We still really don't know what's going on. But what really made the issue land for me was something that I actually needed to ground the story, and that is, years ago, all the assassins of the DC Universe got together, and it shows the meeting that they had and the rules that they had. And it's nice to see this. This is something where we fans, we always have it in our head canon because we say to ourselves, well, okay, you got Deathblow, you got Deadshot, you got Death, you got Cheshire, you got all these assassins in the DC Universe, and how can they all have jobs and all be working? You think their paths would cross. Well, in fact, their paths do cross, but they've got rules and regulations, and they got a code of conduct. Now, who established that code of conduct? It was basically Deathstroke with the help of Wintergreen way back in the day. And slowly I begin to understand why maybe, they sort of look after each other in a way. They're competitive. They still do their own thing. They still they respect each other. If it's my job, you let me. If it's my hit, you let me finish it. If I'm unsuccessful after a certain reasonable period of time, then you can take over the contract. You can bid for it. Those types of rules that they set up. But I like the fact that we're getting a little bit. I like grounding it with a little bit of. None of this is rocket science. We sort of assume, as headcanon, as longtime readers, we could maybe assume this went on behind the scenes. But I like the fact that we got that, and it maybe explains why Deathblow and Deadshot and why they all sort of have a tacit respect, not necessarily for each other, but even if they don't have respect for each other, they have respect for the system. They have respect for the code, or for lack of a better way of putting it. And that's what I liked was established. And because it made me realize why Deathstroke feels so betrayed, because when he talks about the system, about he's lost everything, it's like, if everything comes crashing down, if all the assassins end up coming after him because his life is not only destroyed, but his reputation amongst all the other assassins is being impacted by this, and he's deemed to be crazy or insane, and they're starting to think he's crazy, that's really how you're going to ruin Deathstroke. And so I really appreciated that angle of it, and I think that's what was so interesting, because somebody's getting into Deathstroke's head here, because whatever it is he's experiencing or seeing, and he's got Wintergreen talking to him. Even Deadshot said, "Are you talking to Wintergreen? Are you talking to the person? Like, what's going on here?" Anyways, it actually pulled me more into the story now, because I'm more interested in it. And so even though we're not substantially that much far ahead in the story, I really appreciated the background and the flashback, because it helped ground the story for me, and made me appreciate this new world that is being created by Tony Fleecs, and Giandomenico on the art is fantastic.
Yeah, it is. I mean, again, it was great to see Deadshot. It was great to see Deathblow. It does seem like, in some way, and there's hints of right, that Deathstroke is really losing it. Like, I like the inevitability. I mean, you could almost get an absolute Batman vibe, right? Like, Scott Snyder likes to describe it as Batman AF,
Yeah.
which slang AF means one thing, but always forward.
is theoretically what it's supposed to stand for, and that's what Deathstroke is saying it. You will never say, you could kill me. I'll climb. I'll claw my way out of the ground, out of a grave to find out who killed Wintergreen. He's basically saying he will never stop. So it's that same kind of absolute Batman vibe. But you could also think, man, this guy's he's so obsessed with finding out who killed Wintergreen, that he's sort of losing it in a way, and now he's hearing voices. So that aspect of it, I guess, will be explored more. We'll have to wait and see. All right, up next we have Vertigo title, End of Life #4. Kyle Stark's writers, Steve Pugh on art, Chris O'Halloran on colors, Becca Carey on the letters. I love this. I continue to love this. Eddie Stallion, I wouldn't go so far as to say he's a guest star in this book. He does have a pretty substantial role to play in this particular issue toward the end, and we do see, despite all his bitching and moaning and whining, that he is pretty formidable in a fight. But the vast majority of this episode is actually feels like it's focused on his father. There's some big revelations here. Number one, the fact that his father is one of the ones that was a founder of the menagerie. We find out how and why this group of assassins, or this syndicate of assassins, was created, and it makes sense. And it clearly grew beyond what Eddie's father intended, or what have you. But I just thought this was fantastic. I thought it was great to get the context throughout the first few issues. The relationship between Eddie and his father has been fraught with dysfunction. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
And I think Kyle Starks has done a fantastic job of adding nuance there. And so even when Eddie or his father George are saying the horrible things, they're saying the horrible things. They purport to, hate each other, and I am going to kill you the next time I see you, whatever. But yet they don't follow through. So the words say one thing, but the actions say another, right? Very well illustrated in the last issue when George falls in the bathroom, having gone to the bathroom, and soils himself, and Eddie actually cleans him up. And even his old high school girlfriend, who's kind of a hospice nurse, is surprised that Eddie, cleaned up his father's poop, so to speak. So like that nuance is really great. And now we find out maybe some of why Eddie, because it's like, all right, Eddie doesn't get along with his father. He ran away, and then he just randomly ended up as an assassin because he was good at it. Well, no, it turns out his father was one of the ones that founded the menagerie. Like, there's a lot more there. So you could almost think, okay, well, Eddie didn't get along with his father, resented him for, his mother's disappearance or other things. There's clearly trauma and baggage there. But yet he ran away, purporting to, I hate you, never want to see you again, blah, blah, blah. And then goes and gets a job in the Assassin's Guild that his father founded. You know what I mean? So again, it's like his words are saying one thing, but his actions are saying another. Yes, I'm going to go away, but I'm going to go and get a job in the Assassin's. So maybe you'll still be proud of me, and maybe you'll still know what I'm up to, maybe I'm just going to stick it to you and be a better assassin than you. So again, this book leans into the complicated nature of family dynamics and just the way humans behave, better than anything. Like, what brilliantly done by Kyle Starks. This book is so good in terms of that complexity. And then, at times in the past, especially with superhero work, I haven't been the biggest fan of Steve Pugh's art, but oh my God, dude, I did. So
it's really good.
The book he did with Mark Russell, I wasn't a big fan of it. It was they were doing like the insurance. It was like that superhero insurance. I can't even remember, like One Star.
Oh, One Star Squadron.
One Star Squadron. Yeah. I wasn't the hugest fan of Steve Pugh's art, but I thought Steve Pugh did a fantastic job in the Peacemaker book that he did. Huh. This is head and shoulders above either of those books. Like, especially the pages. I especially love the pages where George is talking to the assassin for the menagerie that shows up. Like how, like the detail in like the beard and the giant mustache that Drother has. it's so well done. The art here is so well done. You can't do this kind of complex emotional relationship type storytelling without really good body language, facial expressions, and that kind of thing. And Steve Pugh's knocking it out of the park. In addition to also handling the action scenes, and he gets a little bloody at times, and I'm perfectly fine with that as well. He handles that really, really well. It doesn't feel like overly gratuitous. It's like to the point where it's hard for me to even pick out what my favorite panel is. Like I love that panel that you just had up there with Drother with the giant, like I said, the giant mustache. But the last panel too, when Eddie, the last panel of the whole issue, when Eddie finds out that the little boy from the gas station has been kidnapped, how he's got that shadow on him and that like look on his face, like Eddie might be a screw up and he might be out of touch with reality sometimes and you know has lived a charmed life and doesn't realize. But with that facial expression, it's clear that somebody's going to get the crap kicked out of them and they'll be lucky to survive it. So brilliantly done. Great book. Loved it. It's in my top 3 if I didn't mention that. And if you couldn't tell from my review. So give us your thoughts, Rocky.
Yeah, no, it was excellent. This was in my top 3, and the art's fantastic. The story's fantastic. You nailed it. I mean, the characterization is great, and you know, just the history, the big revelation that his father sort of formed was one of the founding fathers of the menagerie, and yet at the end he ends up giving up that life entirely, giving up all that power, and dying of cancer. I'm sure at some point the assassin even offered him, you know, give up your son, and we'll even cure your cancer for you. You'll get top treatment. And this is something that I'm sure he already knew. He gave up that power for a reason. And you know, just like he says, you know, when he tells the assassin his story, how in the forming of the menagerie, one of the formative events was him taking revenge on the death of one of his fellow soldiers. And like he said to him, he goes, "I did all that to get revenge." He goes, and I love how he distinguishes between revenge and retaliation. You know, retaliation is when you just react to something and you're retaliating. Revenge is careful, it's planned, it's meticulous, and it's, you know, it's emotional, it's personal. And you know, he goes and he says, if I would do that for just a comrade, what do you think? How do you think I'm going to react to you? You know, threatening my son, like, and you know, and he looks like a miserable old man, but you know, but you know his story. We know his story. We feel his story, and because of the amazing art, it's conveyed so well. And it's just, I mean, this issue just continues to nail it. And of course, it goes back and forth between showing the son and the father, and of course, you know, it looks like the father is possibly killed at the end here, maybe not, but he's in pretty rough shape. But it's just action-packed. And then there's comedy as well. I mean, when the altercation between the guy wearing the bear mask, the bear helmet or bear mask at the end at the gas station, it's just hilarious. And there's a lot of very stupid assassins in this comic, but it just adds to the humor, and it just possesses a verisimilitude that makes the story that much better. And just if you think the lead character is a little bit of a doofus, he's actually not. He's a highly competent assassin. He just, in his personal life and in his family life, maybe he's a little bit dysfunctional, but he's a really, really good assassin, and it shows. And I like that here. You know, just because somebody might be incompetent or dysfunctional in their personal life doesn't mean they can't be really, really good at what they do for a living. And that's a prime example with the protagonist here. So yeah, just a great issue, and easily made my top 3.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned his father's retaliation versus revenge, like what he does. Like he doesn't just go and kill the people. He wipes out their entire families. Like it's just, yeah, it's crazy what he does. Yeah, great. So, all right, up next we have Lobo number 3, written by Skottie Young. Art and colors of the past. There's a flashback sequence here. Are done by Nicoletta Baldari, and then art in the present is by regular series artist Jorge Corona. with colors by Jean-Francois Bellou, his usual colorist, and then lettering the whole thing is Nate Picos. Man, the art in the middle stuff, the flashback, it was okay. It didn't really feel like it suited a Lobo book, in my opinion. And then Jorge Corona, I think his art does very much suit a Lobo type book. But that being said, he, like I mentioned earlier, he's one of the ones that does the ink splatter. And the last page is maybe the best example of him doing that. Yeah. But like, ink splatter is not backgrounds. Ink splatter is not it's just not. It doesn't I don't know. I'd be curious. Let me know in the comments if you think that is sufficient as background work. Like, look, it looks messy. I just think it looks terrible. Ink splatter all over those plain white backgrounds. And as far as the story itself, a little bit of an origin of Lobo, so I guess it's contextual for anybody who's not that familiar with the character. I would sort of question why that's necessary, because I think anybody that's picking up this book is probably familiar with the character. So it felt a little bit like a wasted issue for me. I'm not a Lobo fan, as I've said many times. That being said, I thought the last issue was great. This is, in my opinion, the issue from the series I liked the least, and it hasn't been close. The first issue was better than this. This one was a low point for me. So what do you think, Rocky?
Yeah, I kind of share. This is, I think, almost every issue of Lobo I'm going to have at least one cover by, because the covers, there's something about the character of Lobo, just like Harley Quinn. I think that Lobo and Harley Quinn have one thing in common, and that is they seem to inspire great covers by cover artists. And by the way, I just want to bring up that theory that Crush is the offspring of Lobo and Harley Quinn. That's what I like. I like to imagine that. That just makes the most sense to me. But in any event, I know I'm already starting to feel like Lobo, like I do about the comic book Harley Quinn. I would actually want him. I would actually prefer a more serious take on Lobo. I know I'm in a minority on that. I know he's always doing crazy stuff like this and blah, 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 ripping innards out and swearing. But just a little bit more, just take him a little bit more seriously. Because this one, I just don't care about his origins when he was a kid. And it just, trying to ride that line between, combined violence with a Disney-like storytelling. I mean, it's all right. It'll be okay for 612, maybe 6 or so many issues. But it just has miniseries written all over it for me, because this has a shelf life for me. This type of storytelling for even this character. But hey, this is exactly what I expected. This is what we signed up. If you're buying this is what I expect. Art's great. Cover, I don't mind the art. I will say that when Jorge Corona, that splatter, that's his version of the Kirby crackle, I think. But to not as great an effect. But it is kind of his hallmark, and I think it works for the most part, and he's drawing the right character to exemplify that. And yeah, it's not bad. It came in at number 11 for me. But hey, if you're a Lobo fan, I got to be honest. I'm getting the cover A because I love that cover with that little Lobo coming out of his brain. That's just incredible. I love the creativity on some of these covers. It's just amazing.
Fair enough. All right. Up next, we have New Titans number 35 from Tate Brombal. As the writer, Sami Basri and Jordi Tarragona on pencils and inks, respectively. Vicente Cifuentes handles pencils and inks on a few pages as well. Then we've got Adriana Lucas on colors, and then Tom Napolitano on letters. Man, it was actually a little bit of a struggle for me to decide between this at 13 and Batwoman at 13. This is not working for me. It's boring. It feels derivative. Doesn't feel original at all. It's a complete snooze fest. I'm gonna stop talking because I don't have anything else to add. I know that Tate Brombal is a very talented creator. Not sure what he's trying to do here, and it's not working for me at all. Not in the slightest. So
yeah, I will say this: when I spoke with Tate Brombal at Calgary Comic Con, he did say that he wanted to exemplify or maybe prop up spoiler, and give her some. And one of the things that really stands out here is very much Stephanie is very much. She's almost like a leader. She's like leading the team. She's even telling Nightwing what to do. I mean, if I didn't know better, if you didn't know anything about the new Titans and you read this issue, you'd think, oh my God, this spoiler character, she must be the team leader. That really surprised me. It also felt a little bit out of character. But then, in fairness to Tate, he did exactly what he said he was going to do. He's definitely propping up. And in fairness, she does know how to work with a team. She's worked with she's been an active member of the Batman family for quite a while. So she does know how to lead. I think she's got that potential in her, but I didn't think she was quite on that level yet, to the level to lead the new Titans. But I'm wrong. And, I think she proved her mettle here in this issue, and all the power to him. Now, having said that, I was a little bit confused as to what was going on. The whole thing with Victor, I think this was another fallout from the Alpha Energy thing. It caused Victor. I was a little confused in terms of exactly what happened in this issue, and this came in at number 7 for me. I gave him some points because of the efforts made with respect to spoiler, and sort of like raising her up in my books, so to speak, because I've never been a huge fan of her. But he's making, and even Wonder Girl has a couple of moments. Yara Flor has never had any moments since she's been created, quite frankly. So I want to see more of her. I'd like to see her rise in the ranks as well, in terms of having some gravitas and some just some cool moments. But I'm not this new character Eve. I'm not really interested in that character yet. I don't know why we need this new character. She seems like a didn't we just get that? We got an Eve-like character during John Layman's run, who I forget her name. She went off into space. But I can't remember the name. But in any event, it seems like this story is a little bit derivative, but I'm willing to have it be flushed out and have it maybe be further explained. And the art was clear and crisp, and I could at least artistically. My problem was more in trying to figure out exactly what was going on, but the art itself the art did not hinder my issues with the story. But
you're right about Stephanie Brown. That's a good point, because I definitely felt that as well. I don't know if prop up is the right word, or just again, I didn't obviously talk to Tate about that, but again, you clearly can tell that he made an effort to make Stephanie Brown, I don't know if say more interesting is the right word, or more capable, maybe. Interesting, because again, I kind of felt the same as you did, that it felt out of character to her, because she's always been a kind of a B level character at best, maybe even C level. But then if no creator ever takes the opportunity to elevate somebody, then they're always going to stay as a C.
That's exactly right. Yeah, but, and if you think of how long Stephanie Brown has been around, she should probably be competent at this point, right? So I can understand, and especially if he loves the character, and I kind of like that, because I want writers. If you love a character and you have ability and you can write them, well, hey, yeah, you're going to elevate them, and so all the power to him.
Don't Jeffrey Thorne it. Don't fanboy. There's a line you shouldn't cross. But I think a lot of people are sort of indifferent about Stephanie Brown, and they think of her as a C-lister. Well, why does she need to be elevated?
But she has a lot of fans, though. She does have a lot of fans.
She does have a lot of fans. She does have a lot of fans. Yeah, she has sort of I don't want to say unearned amount of fan, but the amount of fans she has is not commensurate with her C-level status. Like most C-level fans or most C-level characters don't have as many fans as Stephanie Brown does. So
Yeah.
I guess maybe Tate Brombal was one of those. So, but I mean, that didn't necessarily bother me. Yes, it felt out of character. But that didn't necessarily bother me. At least that felt like something new, as opposed to where most of it didn't feel like anything new. So, I forgot to mention. I don't know if you even had it on the screen when we were talking about Lobo. One of my favorite artists, not just favorite cover artist, but one of my favorite cover artists. That one right there in the middle, Lee Bermejo did a cover with Lobo's dog.
It's a great one. That's a cover buy for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And I normally buy all Lee Bermejo covers, and I'm also a big dog lover, but I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that cover. I don't have a particular affinity for French bulldogs, and I don't have an affinity for Lobo, so I am going to skip that one. Sorry, Lee. All right. Moving on up to Nightwing. It's issue number 138 from writer Dan Waters, Dennis Cowan on pencils, Norm Ratman on inks, Francesco Segala on colors, and Wes Abbott on letters. I continue to love the Dennis Cowan art with Norm Ratman handling the inks. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I appreciated Dan Waters moving the plot forward quite a bit in this one in terms of knowing that there's something else going on and that there are, something supernatural going on in Bloodhaven, to kind of finish that thought. And also that there are still consequences and plenty of people calling out that Nightwing should suffer those consequences for the big pileup that we had in the first part of this story, Bloodhaven Lore Part 1, a couple of issues ago. So that's why this entered into my top 5. That combination of forward momentum for the plot, both giving us an interesting story that's kind of a standalone here that calls for Starfire to show up, which I'm probably in the minority here, but I like Dick rather, and Starfire together. I like Nightwing and Starfire together more than Nick and Barbara, Nightwing and Batgirl.
Yeah,
I know. And again, it might just be because, I was reading Teen Titans back in the day. That was the relationship. And so I loved it here. And with Barbara being in Supermax,
she's in jail.
Could it be? Could there be a little? And it's mentioned here because somebody mentioned, when I did the DC Spotlight. Obviously, we do this DC Spotlight and we cover all the books, and then this version that covers all the books also comes out on the podcast, Comic Source podcast feed. But then also I take just a couple of reviews each week, either a book that is like the really hot book everybody's been expecting, or maybe it's a book where me and Rocky really disagree and have a great back and forth. And I'll do just a clip of just that book and I'll put it out on my YouTube. So I did that last week with Barbara, with Breakout, because it was in my top 5, wasn't in Rocky's top 5, even though we had some of the same criticisms. But anyway, somebody replied saying, that we didn't mention the whole, how's this going to work with, Barbara and Dick in a relationship, whatever. And, he's not worried about her and blah, 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 blah. Well, no, he is. And it's mentioned here. They call and talk a couple of times while she's in Supermax, but I don't expect anything to happen. I don't think Dan Waters is going to have Dick Grayson cheat on Barbara or anything, but it's just for a guy like me who loves seeing Starfire and Nightwing together. It was great to see that. And this kind of the standalone, which called back to Starfire's earliest time on work with the Scion, was fun as well. But again, even while juggling all that, Dan Waters does still move the Witch of Bloodhaven story forward a little bit too. Again, gorgeous art from Dennis Cowan, especially like how he gives Starfire that really long flowing hair. So yeah, this was kind of a no-brainer for me in my top 5. I continue to be impressed by what Dan Waters is doing in this book. What are your thoughts on it?
I thought it was decent. I thought it was decent. I really like the fact that they incorporated. I can't believe that I was surprised to see Starfire show up, because it's so funny with Dennis Cowan's art. He's got such a crime noir feel to it. So having him draw Starfire is so weird. Kind of, but yet it's kind of awesome, because it feels like she's going into a different genre, and not only that, this monster, this feels, it has the look and feel of a horror comic. And the monster that's doing all this attacking is actually a Scion. It's right from the Marv Wolfman Perez days. The Scion is the monster. It's a crashed alien ship that ultimately came to Earth in pursuit of Starfire, and it ends up, terrorizing some people on the fringes of Bloodhaven. But in any event, it was really good, and it allowed for some great character moments between Starfire and Dick and Nightwing. And personally, I would tell Nightwing, I'd say, look, Dick, listen to me. If you sleep with an alien, it's not cheating. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. If it's not human, you can't be accused of cheating. So just go with it. Go with it. Go with your feelings. I mean, how can you resist those eyes? Not only those eyes, but I mean, there's other assets she has that are, quite enjoyable to look at as well. In any event, this was well done. And it read well, it was paced well. And of course, the central mystery of who this woman was on the highway that caused all this kerfuffle is still ongoing, because this mysterious woman, appears now to have a potential ally who picked her up on the highway. And so the central problem, this central antagonist, whoever this mysterious woman is, she hasn't gone away. The problem still exists. And kudos to Dan Waters for giving us this issue where we got to see Starfire in a very well-written issue.
Yeah.
And well-drawn, too.
Yeah, I didn't notice any variant covers that stood out to me on this one, though. I mean, the A cover's fine, but...
Yeah.
I didn't think... Yeah, I mean, again, that one's fine. That one you're showing there is Philip Tan. There's another one by Dani, which, again, I thought it was okay. No big deal. All right. Up next, we have Superman Unlimited, number 13, Primal Fears. Dan Slott is the writer. Art is by Lucas Meyer. Colors by Giovanni Peritelli. Letters by Dave Sharp. What'd you think?
Well, this one, it's funny. This one this made my top 5. It just came in. I could have maybe taken this out of my top 5, but I put it in there. I have to say, I really don't like Bibbo. Like, I hate Bibbo, that the monkey and the Monkey of Steel. I don't like ape stories and super apes. I just don't like it. And in this case, but I want to give Dan Slott credit, because, Bibbo here, and actually Bibbo is the bald-headed guy. What's the name of the chimp? Is the chimp Bibbo?
Beppo.
Beppo. There's Beppo and Bibbo. Sorry. Beppo the chimp. And Beppo is a call out, because Beppo is lab number 06638, which I think is meant to be June 6, 1938, because Beppo made his first appearance in the same Action Comics as Superman did. First appearance of Beppo was in the same. First appearance of Superman and Beppo were in the same comic. So it was a nice callback there. And that I thought was interesting. He's a very powerful monkey. He's got superpowers, and he gets extra powers because of all the excess kryptonite in the world. He's very powered up, and ultimately he ends up trying to protect Beppo when they're mugged or whatever. He ends up causing havoc, and he has to basically be taken down by Tomorrow Man and young John Kent. And young John Kent, which is the most interesting aspect of this issue for me and for all of us who are hoping that this young John Kent is the real deal. It opens up. This issue is called Primal Fears. This is young John Kent having a nightmare of being tortured in a volcano by Ultraman, which is what you would expect, because that's what happened. That's what we were told happened. by Bendis when he wrote the storyline. And poor Lois, she sees her young son, who she finally gets back. Her young son is struggling. He's having a nightmare, but she doesn't know how to control him because he's super powered and he's destroying the room. And she basically calls for help. And ultimately, Tomorrow Man sends in Crypto. Crypto wakes up young John, and there's some really nice moments here. And I think it's fairly obvious that Lois knows that Tomorrow Man is older John Kent. I think it's obvious. Lois is, you can just tell by the dialogue that Lois knows that Tomorrow Man is actually her older son of John Kent. But she's sort of going along with it because you can just tell. And meanwhile, Tomorrow Man takes young John Kent with him, and they need to stop Beppo because he's going on a rampage. And what's very interesting here is that in trying to stop him, young John Kent sort of loses control. He loses his temper, and he gets very angry. And Dan Slott sort of character-wise, plot-wise, he does sort of this juxtaposition of John Kent, of young John Kent feeling alone and isolated, just how Beppo did as a lab experiment. He was experimented upon, just like young John Kent felt alone and isolated and tortured at the hands of Ultraman. And maybe you can see how those two both of their journeys, they got something in common. And what I found the most interesting of the issue, though, and I don't know if it kind of irritated me a bit, was Tomorrow Man, older John Kent's comments at the end. He says that there is something I do know. He says that young John Kent is far more broken than I ever was. And I'm thinking, what? You're kidding me, right? Young John Kent was more broken than you ever were? That shouldn't be the case, but I guess maybe it is. It makes me wonder if maybe Tomorrow Man, how did Tomorrow Man escape wasn't older John Kent, doesn't he have memories of being tortured? Doesn't he have memories of doing all that? So it kind of makes me wonder if young John Kent was so traumatized, if older John Kent, doesn't he have a memory of that? How did he overcome it? So I got a lot of questions, because even older John Kent is saying, if he's saying that this young John Kent is far more broken than I ever was, we're supposed to be the same, but when he's on edge, I have no idea what he'll do next. Well, that's interesting to me, because it makes me wonder, well, frankly, this young John Kent feels more realistic to me as the John Kent we know, because he's reacting that way. I'm cheering for this young kid, young John Kent, because that's how a young John Kent ought to act if you're tortured by Ultraman in a volcano for a period of time. He's still young, so you can't say he's been tortured for 7 years, but still. And so I'm still cheering, I'm still rooting for this young John Kent to be the genuine article. And it makes me wonder if this older John Kent has no memory of being traumatized like that, then who's this older John Kent? That's what I'm thinking.
You have it completely backwards. You have it completely backwards. He never says young John Kent.
No, he said, but there's something. No, I'm saying that for the benefit of the people listening. He's saying that John Kent is far more. He's saying that John Kent is far more. Right.
Exactly.
That John Kent. So yes, that's the younger John Kent. That's what I'm saying.
No, you're making an assumption, Rocky. You're making an assumption. First of all, let me back up. Let me first of all say.
Of course, I know what you're going to get at here, but my point is that it could be something different. Yeah, maybe it could be a fifth dimensional imp impersonating a young John Kent. Sure, it could. That's a possibility. But at the same time, it really makes me wonder, because it sort of irritates me in a way, because one of the things that I've been saying for the longest time, and I haven't been the only one, many of us have been saying that where's the evidence of the trauma of John Kent? There's been no evidence of it whatsoever. He comes back, he's more perfect than his father. It's ridiculous. And then to just have it, even now it seems to be ignored. Now he's saying, well, geez, I was never screwed up like that. Well, did you have any? Did John Kent, I'd actually be curious to know what happened. Was it all just, did they just have a massive party? Was there no torture at all for this older John Kent? It just sort of irritates me. It might seem like
there were multiple people that addressed the torture. Now, I'm not saying they did a good enough job, of addressing the trauma and acknowledging the trauma, but Philip Kennedy Johnson did it, and Tom Taylor did it to some extent. Did they do a good enough job? No, I will freely admit they probably didn't do a good enough job. But the point of this line, that John Kent is more broken than I ever was, is just one more clue, because there's another clue that's even more blatant in this issue, that this, I'm sorry, everybody, I've seen the comments on those clip shows, and this will probably, Superman Unlimited will probably be another clip show, and I'm going to tell you again, and I'm no longer saying, hey, be careful what you're wishing for, because I'm telling you right now, definitively, that is not the young John Kent. It is not. We've had clue after clue after clue after clue. First of all, going back to the fifth dimensional demon rescuing him, I would have to go back and look. But I remember thinking at the time, the way that it made it sound was that the imp grabbed him from the volcano either right before he ever got into the volcano or right after. So I was confused why he's even having the trauma. Like, I didn't think he spent very much time with Ultraman. I thought that was the whole point, right? That this demon says, future John Kent, you defeated me. I'm going to reward you and give your parents what they've always wanted, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm going to go and take you before the torture. And now this whatever this thing is that's pretending to be the young John Kent, I don't even think it's aware that it isn't. I think it completely believes that it is the young John Kent. It's having nightmares? Like what? So set that aside, right? Like say, okay, well, maybe I was wrong and he was tortured for a number of days, a week or whatever, and it is traumatizing for a young child. So, he's going to have nightmares about that or whatever. If we look in the story and we see that moment when Beppo bites the older John Kent, bites Tomorrow Man, he immediately is just in pain. He freaks out. He gets punched by Beppo. Like he's down for the count. Very next page, young John Kent gets bit by Beppo. He freaks out too, but he doesn't lose his powers. He doesn't get punched. He freaks out like, how dare you bite me, and wigs out and knocks Beppo's teeth out or whatever. And that's what older John Kent sees and is like, dude, that's why, like, this guy's more broken than it. Like, he got bit, and I get it. He freaks out or whatever, but I've never lost control like that. Now, we could argue whether or not older John Kent has ever lost control, maybe just doesn't remember or whatever. He maybe has dealt with his trauma. Like, there's all kinds of things we could look at. But what's not in dispute is that when the kryptonite irradiated monkey bites older John Kent, he's got a negative reaction because there's kryptonite in Beppo's blood and in Beppo's bite and in Beppo's saliva. And older John Kent reacts the way you would expect a Kryptonian to react when he is exposed to kryptonite. Whatever this thing is that purports to be young John Kent does not have the reaction to the kryptonite. I don't know what more proof you people need. That is not young John Kent. It's not. Plain and simple. So I don't really have a problem with older John Kent saying, I was never broken the way this, whatever, because it's not him. It's not him. Also, I think I wouldn't go so far as to say that Lois knows that Tomorrow Man is older John Kent. I 100% agree that she suspects, but Lois is a consummate professional journalist, and even she, at this point, if you were to go and ask her at this point in the story, she would say, I strongly believe, but she wouldn't say, because she doesn't know for certain. But mother's intuition, reporter's instincts, she's maybe 99% there.
Well, she's probably clouded by her love for John, because if it's not John Kent, she wants to believe it is so badly that she maybe...
No, I'm not. I'm talking about her thinking that Tomorrow Man's the older John Kent.
Yeah, I know. I know that. Yeah. I'm talking about just...
whether or not... Yeah, I don't think she's thought about the fact that, or considered the fact that this could not be her young son, because, like you said, she wants it to be so badly. Plus, if she does suspect that Tomorrow Man is the older John that she's spent the last couple of years with, that older John's not going to bring back a younger John and say it's younger John and and it not be younger John, right? Unless, obviously she doesn't. I don't think she's thought it through that much. But anyway, I thought this was a fantastic issue. I'm a little sad that it's not young John Kent. Not as sad as or upset as a lot of you are going to be, because I've been saying it all along, but I feel like people haven't. That's not what they want to hear. They're in Lois's camp. They want it to be young John so bad. Like there was even somebody in the comments on one of these that was like, if this isn't the real young John Kent, I'm boycotting DC. I'm never reading another DC comic. It's fraud. We should sue them, blah, blah. I'm like, really, dude? It's a comic. It's a comic, and it's written by Dan Slott, who loves to do these kind of shenanigans.
Well,
so,
we know John Kent is a member of the Teen Titans, of the new Titans, and so we know presumably they wouldn't put him on the team if he wasn't planning on staying. The only at this point, is it possible that the event that led to the aging up, the nonsensical once in a billion lifetime aging up of John Kent, which made very little sense. It was explained because of what happened at the Source Wall in Scott Snyder's Justice League run. There was I believe it was Perpetua was released from the Source Wall. It created some multiversal nonsense, which led to the aging up of John Kent. It was and is it possible that something could have happened fifth dimensionally? That could we still get a young John Kent and an older John Kent? Possibly. Is that likely? Probably not. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'm grasping at straws here because I desperately want this kid to stick around. But
see, I don't. Not if it's not him. Like, what do I? And I don't remember that Perpetua thing. I remember the whole, traveling a long distance, and it's the same thing if you have twins and one travels away at near the speed of light and comes back. The person that stayed on Earth is going to be older than the person that didn't.
Well, the thing is,
it doesn't really matter what the difference is, what the reason behind, like scientifically or in canon reason for him being aged up. The real reason he got aged up is because Bendis didn't want to write a little kid. He didn't want to write a Superman that had a little kid. He didn't want to write a Superman that was married to Lois Lane. And it was a horrible, horrible, horrible mistake. And Dan Slott is mining the angst and the pathos that us DC fans feel to great effect. He's got to be just chuckling away at the way people are so invested. And that, I mean, whether you like it or not, that's good storytelling.
Yeah, it is. He's doing a good job. He's doing a good job. Yeah. He's tugging at. He's ripping me apart. He's ripping my heart apart.
Yeah, we care. We're invested. We're invested. So, yeah, but everybody, I'm telling you, it is not John Kent. We'll find out who it is. Maybe next issue, maybe the one after. I'm very curious to see. Although I haven't gone and looked ahead to see if we have the next issue of Superman Unlimited yet. We haven't been getting the issues like super early lately. So anyway, last thing I want to shout out is the cover, the main cover A by Lucas Meyer, which is the one behind me. Brilliantly done. I love it. Actually, sorry. Is that? I don't think that's. I'm miscrediting it. That's Torunn Clark. Actually, I think on that cover. Let me just double check that. Yeah, Torunn Clark does that cover. Sorry, my apologies to Torunn and Lucas. But the other thing I was going to mention is the art inside the book from Lucas Meyer is gorgeous. I love the way he draws Beppo. I'm not the biggest Beppo fan. It's interesting to hear you say, Rocky, that you don't, any story with apes or monkeys, blah, blah. I'm in that same boat most of the time. I think it works here. I think Beppo, in terms of what he's doing for the story, it's very well done by Dan Slott. There is a school of thought, and I've heard many, many people, many, many comic fans agree with this, that all you have to do to sell a comic is put a monkey or an ape on the cover of the comic. You remember many years ago, over a decade, maybe over 20 years now, DC had that JL Ape crossover where they had a bunch of ape covers or whatever. And people went crazy. People go crazy for monkeys, whether it be Detective Chimp or Beppo or whomever, Cheetah in the Tarzan world. But I'm with you, man. I don't want stories about monkeys. I don't care. You put an ape on a cover or a monkey on a cover, I'm less likely to buy it. But the fact of the matter is we're in the majority. All that being said, I think Lucas does a wonderful job of depicting the relationship between Bibbo and Beppo. It makes sense the way Beppo freaks out. This art is so good. Best art that Lucas I've seen from Lucas, and he's done some fantastic art in the past. So I wanted to give a shout out to him. All right, on to the book that probably most people were anxiously awaiting us chatting about. And in the interest of full disclosure, this was actually the first book listed, and we usually just go in order, but we couldn't get it to load, the graphics to load earlier. So we ended up moving it to the end, hoping that the graphics would load, and it looks like they are. So Absolute Green Arrow, already a sellout, already a second printing. Got announced last week that it was a sellout. From writer Pornsak Pichachote, Rafael Albuquerque on art, Marcelo Mayalo on colors, Jeff Powell on letters. It is Absolute Green Arrow. We got a chance to read it pretty early. If anything, this is Absolute Black Canary or Absolute Dinah Lance. She has a much bigger role to play than Absolute Green Arrow. That being said, Absolute Green Arrow is the plot device that makes this all go. So I don't mind that it's called Absolute Green Arrow. Green Arrow, just the character has more name recognition than Absolute Black Canary. So I think if you called this Absolute Black Canary, it wouldn't be a sellout already. I'll tell you that. And it very well may be that as the series continues on, that we get to see more and more of Absolute Green Arrow. But if you had a chance to look at my interview with Pornsak when he was on, he's done other interviews where he said this as well. This is a mystery. So, he mentioned it being a challenge because he can't really tell the story from the perspective of Absolute Green Arrow and still maintain the mystery of who Absolute Green Arrow is, right? That would make it kind of tough. So him choosing to do it to the perspective of Absolute Black Canary makes a lot of sense because that's a traditional pair, Black Canary and Green Arrow. So the Rafael Albuquerque art really works because in a way, in addition to it being mystery, it is a little bit of horror, and it is topical in terms of how much money do people need, the whole idea of Green Arrow as Robin Hood, a force for social justice and what have you. And he's out there killing billionaires. And Pornsak had said this as well, his idea of initially coming up with it, like what would scare billionaires? Like billionaires to this point, both in the Absolute universe and in our real world, they have so much money. What do they have to fear? Not much, right? Because they can be protected by walls of lawyers and what have you. They have the best health care. They have, the best of everything because so many obstacles are just solved by throwing money at it. So this idea of, okay, but what if there was a problem that money couldn't solve? What if for some reason somebody wanted to kill all the billionaires and no matter what you did to protect yourself, you couldn't stop them? That's part of the story. The other part of the story is who is this guy and why is he doing it? And then maybe I'll say even the third part of the story is, again, going back to the incredible art from Rafael Albuquerque. I've seen some people complaining about his bow, how it's like two machetes that are like fastened together, and how in real life, and I'm assuming the people that were criticizing it are like real life archers, people that compete in archery or whatever. They're like, that would never hold up and have the right kind of tensile strength, and like it wouldn't be accurate to fire the bow and blah, blah, blah. I don't care. It looks cool. Hey, it looks so badass.
If Batman can drive a dump truck as a Batmobile, I mean,
exactly. Exactly. If Superman can have a cape that's made out of the dust of his home planet, if Wonder Woman can have a magic arm to replace the one that she cut off, then goddamn it, Absolute Green Arrow can have a bow made out of two machetes.
Yeah.
So I loved everything about this book. I thought it was absolutely, no pun intended, amazing. It exceeded my expectations, largely because, and I had high expectations, but largely because the art from Albuquerque exceeded even my high expectations. And the layering of the emotionality of Black Canary, especially, and the deep mystery and tension of the identity surrounding the identity of who Absolute Green Arrow is, was done to perfection. And there's a lot to get into when we want to talk about Black Canary and her motivations and why she's doing what she's doing. and again leaning into the idea of the haves and have-nots. But I got to leave something for Rocky to talk about. So I'll end it there and not get too much into the Black Canary part of it. But yeah, the layering and the immersive storytelling in this first issue just blew me away. I plan on. I think I ordered a couple different covers. I'm probably going to pick up. I may just pick up all the open to order covers on this.
Yeah, the covers are fantastic. Yeah. I think I may have gotten 3 out of 4. I might have even gotten all 4 of them. I know there's probably more than 4. I just picked the ones that I like.
Yeah, I didn't get any of the retailer exclusives, but when we're talking about
that's right.
Open to order. So there's 7 open to order because there's a foil version of the regular cover A that's a virgin variant. But I don't think I ordered I think I just ordered cover A, B, C, and D. I didn't get the foil version, and I didn't get the foil logo variant or the blank one. But I think I basically ordered the Gerald Perel variant, which is the kind of the inset one behind Rocky, and then the Black Canary one, which is in the middle, and then the Tula Lotte one, which is behind me.
Yeah, gorgeous.
I think I ordered all of those. So.
Go ahead. Shout out to Tula Lotte. I love her cover art. It's fantastic. And Gillian March, I put that in the center. I love it as well. I love the Absolute Black Canary here. Absolute Dinah Lance. She's a former MMA fighter. She's awesome. She's got her father is dying of cancer, and so she's trying to make a living as a bodyguard. She's basically protecting pop stars. Unfortunately, she gets a little bit aggressive in protecting the pop stars, and I think it ends up getting fired. And then she ends up getting hired by essentially Malcolm Merlin hires Dinah Lance to protect Hector Hammond and to find out who is killing all these billionaires. And why are they choosing her? Because she's a little bit curious. Well, because she knew Oliver Queen in the past, and she also knew this Jubel Slade, who was one of the billionaires who's killed at the beginning by this mysterious Green Arrow, and the entire issue is really is basically really a good character work for Dinah Lance. Her own relationship issues, her own past. She's struggling financially. She's a good fighter, but she struggles in her relationships. But one of the things that's well established here is that you get a sense that she really admired Oliver Queen, and that there was even perhaps an undercurrent of love there for him, but she cheated on him because Oliver Queen. That's what he does. He did that in the mainstream universe too, and I like the fact that they went there. Oliver Queen is a billionaire. He's going to have more than one woman, and so he broke her heart. He cheated on her, but he also had big ideas, and he cared for society, and he was sort of like your typical social justice warrior. He was ultimately killed. And she doesn't know who killed him. No one knows who killed him, but it's clear that there's some suspects that come up, and the suspects are Roy Harper, Mia Dearden, Tom Holloway, which are names familiar in the mainstream universe. And so it's clear that the powers that be in the Absolute universe, particularly Hector Hammond himself, who Dinah Lance is hired to protect, Dinah hates him. He's a jerk, and he basically says to her, either you're going to protect me whether you like it or not, or I'm. In fact, just to be an asshole, he cancels Dinah Lance's father's medical insurance, and he's dying of cancer. So she has to work for him to make money to pay for her dad's cancer. So I mean, just a complete jerk. And at the end, when there's a major attack on Hector Hammond and many people are killed. The only reason Green Arrow could probably have stayed and killed Hector Hammond, but left, probably because this Green Arrow knows Dinah Lance. Because who is this Green Arrow? Who is this powerful assassin? We don't know, but it's just so action packed. And I'm saying all this. These words are just flowing out of my mouth. The art's fantastic. I'm not doing the character work justice. I'm not doing the art justice. Just talking about all this. But this works so well because this story, we're feeling this story. I felt this story through the mind of Dinah Lance. And I want her I want her to get justice for Oliver Queen, and isn't it kind of funny? She has a relationship with him, he cheats on her, and yet I still have respect for Oliver Queen. And she even Hector Hammond even hinted that, you know, he knows who killed Oliver Queen, and we know it was, or at least we believe it was Hawkman, because we know that from the Absolute Justice one shot. But maybe, I'm pretty sure it was, but he was sent to kill him. But perhaps there's more to the story there. And in any event, you know, I listened to your interview with Porn's Pick a Shoot, and yeah, he's so passionate about it. He talked about that this is a mystery, that there's multiple directions that there's going to be misdirections. There's going to be all types of things. They're taking big swings. I'm so looking forward to this, and I'm really loving this. I'm so excited about it. This was easily in my top 3 this week, and I'm sure it's going to be the talk of the town. And I think it was, did this not, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the orders for this surpassed even Absolute Batman, did they not? Absolute Batman
yes.
#1? Yeah.
Yes.
So,
correct.
And it's well deserved. It's well deserved, I think. I think people will be, all the extra people that ordered this, I think they'll be very happy.
But that being said, like, without the success of Absolute Batman, this doesn't. So we're not saying this is going to be bigger than Absolute Batman.
Yeah.
As far as you mentioned the 3 different suspects, yes, they are all main universe DC characters. It's just I think Roy Harper, we're all like, okay, yeah, we know who that is, like the original Speedy. Mia Durden, that's the name of the female Speedy that was in DC in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then the final one, Thomas Holloway, that one's a little bit more obscure. I think most people probably aren't going to know who that is. He's from the 1940s. He's a character called the Spider. At times he's been a supervillain. At times he's been a superhero. Doesn't really have any superpowers to speak of. You know, kind of like that Captain America model, if you will. Or maybe, Captain America has a super soldier serum, but you know, maybe like a Batman in terms of like trained to, you know, the peak of physical perfection, but also a big game hunter, a millionaire playboy, but it's kind of similar to Batman. So maybe that's the best comparison. You know, you can only tell so many Batman stories. So let's have a character called the Spider, and we're telling the same kind of story. So anyway, be curious to see. I mean, right away, you think Roy Harper out for revenge on the killing of Oliver Queen, but at the same time, that almost seems too easy and obvious.
Too easy, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we'll have to wait and see who it is in the long run. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it for the books we're going to talk about in detail. There are a number of other books that are coming out this week from DC. At least one facsimile, if I remember correctly. So let me get it in front of me. Oh, that's right. First appearance of Ra's al Ghul in Batman 244 is getting the typical DC facsimile treatment, where we get a reprint with a foil cover, and we get a reprint with a blank cover. So look for that this week if you are so inclined. I don't think there were I didn't see any other reprints other than that. So, okay, when it comes to collected editions, we've got a few. Gotham Central is getting a compact comics edition. This is 240 pages for $10, collecting a lot of that Gotham Central series from Greg Rucka and Ed Brubaker and others. DC's Finest format is getting a Sergeant Rock of Easy Company book out this week, 616 pages for $40. If you're a fan of war comics, check that out. Superman Omnibus Volume 1 hardcover Elseworlds. So similar to the Batman one we had a few months ago, collecting a ton of different Superman Elseworld stories. It's 1,232 pages, hardcover, $150. We've got Absolute Blackest Night getting a hardcover. This has been out of print for a while. And when I say Absolute, I don't mean it's set in the Absolute universe. I mean it's that Absolute format that DC does, where the pages are printed the size of the art as it was originally drawn. So this is classic DC stuff. Jeff Johns, Doug Mahnke, Yvonne Reese. 576 pages, $125. I can't really afford, nor do I have room for that, but man, do I really want it. Uh, and then finally, we've got a Teen Titans Bronze Age Omnibus hardcover. This is collecting a bunch of the Teen Titans stories from the 1970s. So this is before the Wolfman Perez run. This is Bob Haney, Bob Rozakis, Nick Cardy on art for a lot of it. Robert Kanigher did some of the early stuff. So you got 795 pages of 1970s Teen Titans collecting issues 25 through 53, Brave and the Bold 94, 102, 149, and some stories from Batman Family and World's Finest. It's 795 pages for $100. All right, so that does it for the collected editions this week, which brings us to our rankings, which I think you went first last week, Rocky. So let me fire away here. Coming in last for me, number 13, I've got Batwoman number 3. Coming in at number 12, again, it was a real fight. These are kind of interchangeable. New Titans number 35 is the is my number 12 pick. Oh, and wasn't it Vanadia was that character?
Oh, yeah, Vanadia. That's what, yeah.
John Layman. Yeah, I don't know why that just popped into my head. But anyway, moving on. Number 11 for me was Lobo number 3. At number 10, I've got Sirens Love Hurts number 4. At number 9, Catwoman 87. Coming in at 8, Deathstroke the Terminator number 3. At number 7, Wonder Woman 33. At number 6, Absolute Flash 15. My top 5, at 5, Nightwing 138. At 4, Batman Superman World's Finest 51. Coming in at number 3, End of Life number 4. And these were really hard choices. My top 3, I almost could have gone any order with them. But End of Life number 3 is at number 4. Or sorry, End of Life 4 is at number 3. Superman Unlimited number 13 is at 2. And Absolute Green Arrow number 1 is my pick of the week. It's just, again, I had very high expectations and they were exceeded. And I try not to have high expectations because so often it goes the other way. But I couldn't help it knowing the creative team. And yeah, they knocked it out of the park. So.
Yeah. Well, my top, my rankings are coming in at number 13, Batwoman 3, number 12, Nightwing 138, and number 11, Lobo issue 3. Coming in at number 10 was Catwoman 87, number 9, Wonder Woman 33, number 8, World's Finest. I can't remember the issue number.
51.
51. And coming in at number 7 was New Titans, issue 35. And then coming in at number 6, Superman Unlimited, issue 13. Coming in at number 5 was Deathstroke, Terminator, issue 3. Number 4, Sirens Love Hurts. Number 3, End of Life, issue 4. Number 2, Absolute Flash 15. And number 1 was Absolute Green Arrow. It was basically, it was a no-brainer for me as well. I mean, it was just a fantastic issue. Well-deserved. And, Absolute Flash coming in at number 2. Just another absolutely pretty damn good week for the top 5 anyway, for me.
Yeah, so looks like Nightwing was our biggest difference. I had it at 5, you had it at 12, so 7.
Yeah.
7 ranks different there. And then Sirens Love Hurts went the other way. I had it at 10, you had it at 4, so 6 different there. But yeah, we lined up on a lot of stuff. Clearly, same book of the week. Both really had End of Life at number 3, so both had Batwoman at 13 and Lobo at 11. So, yeah, great week. So, anyway, everybody, go check out that interview I did with William Bernhardt. Go pick up Superman, the Superman Wars. Fantastic book. You don't have to read it all in one day like I did. You can take your time. But, again, the most comprehensive look at the life of Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster when it comes to their battle to try to get the rights back to their character. Definitely worth your time. So that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Appreciate you joining as always, and we'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.